Okie dokie, let's do a shot. Well, what do we have? Well, from the background image, we can see we took this directly from our storyboard. You got this shot where it says we need to, actually, let's pop it up this way. The kids run through as you push in to see the marketplace. So there's some guy that's kind of singing, there's some people trading some textiles here in the background. There's a roll of rugs and a bunch of tents and whatnot. And so the idea is you see these kids zipping through the scene, and we're just establishing the happy time that we are living in before tragedy strikes in our story. Well, the guy that's running through the scene, well, that's already done. So we'll see here. There he goes. Oh, there he went. And you'll also notice he keeps running forever. And how to loop your animations so that they keep going forever is something I am not going to cover here today. Suffice to say that this little guy is actually a bunch of different planes. So if I turn off only render, you can see that he consists of these different little graphics of his legs and his arms and his body and his head, all mapped to planes. And then I just simply animated each of the pieces, and then parented them all to an empty, and actually parented that to another empty, so that one's sort of the organizer for sizing it and getting it in position, and the other one's to go ahead and animate it moving across the screen. Pretty simple, actually. The big zillion-dollar question on this situation would be, how do you get it to repeat forever so that you only actually have to do the run cycle once? Because I just animated that much, and then everything else just repeats. If I was a really nice guy, I'd go ahead and show you how you do that in the graph editor, but honestly, I'm not in the frame of mind to do it right now. So let's just not even go there. Oh yeah, it would be so nice if I was a really nice guy. I guess I would have to be in object mode in order for that to work, and I would have to go to the dope sheet, and actually I'd want to switch to the graph editor, and again I would look for my objects, and there's his body. And the reason I actually don't want to deal with it right now is because I don't remember offhand at the moment why I'm only seeing the one item in the graph editor. I know that's a stupid problem to have, but actually I've had to like relearn this repeatedly because I've been reacquainting myself with Blender, and I actually don't remember what I did. So boy, I'm definitely curious though, because you'll notice if I drag this up here and turn this into a graph editor, let's see what happens if we actually click around. Okay, there's the empty. Well, I'll give you this. Here's the answer. You guys can fight with finding your animation graph F curves yourself, but the answer to the zillion-dollar question here is simply this. You grab the animation curve, which presumably would be like the rotation of the object, and then you go to channel, extrapolation mode, make cyclic. That's it. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about it. Okie dokie. So back to the timeline here. Sneak that down there. And sorry, I really don't want to deal with that particular issue right now, but you guys can figure that out on your own. Okay, what I am interested in doing, and where my brain was at when I started this, is this shot. The animation of the kid's already done. What we need to do is add the girl that's chasing him and then deal with the rest of the characters in the shot. Okay, so that's what we're going to stay focused on from here on out. Well, I actually already sketched the girl in there. And so at this point, since I sketched over my background image, there's really no reason to keep the background image in there, is there? So let's just go ahead and kill background images. So now the only thing we see in our shot, and by the way, I'm going to save my work, even though Blender like practically never crashes. There goes our kid. Now what we can do is completely focus on her. Since he is not a grease pencil object, let's go into edit strokes mode. Actually strike that. Let's select none, go into edit strokes mode. Okay, so now we can effectively focus on just the girl, and that's that. We don't have to think about anything else. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and size her up a little bit and get her into the middle of the screen. Okay, and let's see. So just to make things kind of workable, I'm going to put this back up here so I can get a good bead on my layers. And I would say that did the trick. So my palette is here. I really don't need to see it here. So I'm going to go ahead and sneak that down there. And again, save my work, so it just kind of preserves my working environment. All right, so if I hit the A key, none of the strokes are selected. I can get back to the business of creating a cartoon. So let's see, we'll give her a little bit of hair thing going on, and then she's got this kind of cute little bonnety old ancient, I suppose ancient Middle Eastern kind of thing going on with her headdress, because back then they were well, you could argue they were oppressive to women and made them cover their heads, or you could say, well, geez, it was really hot, and so they would want to wear lightly colored headdresses to protect themselves from the sun. The fact is that both of those assertions are probably true. So, okay, so let's just deal with this. Right here, I'm going to go from dope sheet. I'm going to switch this to grease pencil, and again, this just keeps my workflow clean, because now I don't have to even think about the kid who's running through the scene. I'm just going to go ahead and get her set up. So really, all I want to do is sketch the changes. So I'm just going to wiggle a grease pencil key here, and I'm going to wiggle a grease pencil key here. So I'm hitting the G key in order to just wiggle those. Why? Well, basically, so that I can go ahead and just do it this way. Let me think about this for half a second. So this is the front leg. This is actually a dyslexia moment for me, I must say. This is the front leg. So let's go ahead and go back here and more clearly delineate. This is sort of Charlie Brown style, I guess you'd say. Really, really simple. So I'm going to go ahead and clean it up just because it's a little easier when things are clean-ish. Okay, cool. And I think for the moment, let's turn the onion skins off because they're just distracting me. Alright, so simple little footy, and that's that. Okay, good. Problem solved. So now front leg, rear leg. So what I want to do is I want to go to, actually let's do it this way. Let's delete this again and make a copy so that's actually copying the corrected version. So now I'm going to go to the this keyframe, and what I want to do is change her dress. Okay, so let me just think about how I would do this. This is going to be, let's erase anything that gives any indication of which leg is which. Yeah, and I can see kind of a problem. So let's grab this, put that back a little further, and I'm going to go ahead and click there, and then hit the period key so that I rotate around that as an axis, and then just kind of put that out like that. Okay, and now, so what I'm looking at actually here is I'm kind of thinking about not only how to, you know, kind of sort of make it look like she's running, but also if you were using flat colors, as I've sort of described in the last couple of videos, for most of the ink and paint here, then the question is what would have to change in order to indicate that this leg or the other is in front. So this is kind of an interesting question. So I'm going to go to the dope sheet summary and go ahead, and I'm actually going to, believe it or not, duplicate that yet again. Okay, and now let me think about this. Well, it's really tough. Truth of the matter is, I think the answer really is not in her dress, it's in her shoes. Here, we would see her little toesies and the front of her shoe. And so this would kind of indicate that this is the front leg. Yeah, and this would be your big toe right here, so like so. And we might put a little indication like that. Okay. So then, again, I guess I'm kind of thinking like an idiot here that there's really no point in dealing with the middle key until we really have to. So now what I would do is get rid of that and probably put in an indication like that, and then switch this back to be the bottom of her sandal, and then and here her big toe would have to be there, right? Okay. Okay, so that seems crazy, doesn't it? And what I'm going to do also is just kind of put some noise in her headdress as well, just to give it some variety. Okay, now you're going, wait, that doesn't really look very good. Well, you're correct, it doesn't look very good. Not yet. So what we want to do is move this out. Let's move it out 1, 2 keys, okay? And now, just to kind of make our life as easy as possible, let's go ahead and I'm thinking, because again, this is just a guide. What I'm going to do is bend her at the hip. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and hit connected on the proportional editing tool so that it's only dealing with the stuff that I grab, and the strokes, I should say the proportional editing tool is only going to affect the points on strokes that are actually selected, as opposed to 2D project 2D, which I'll just show you if I hit the G key and make the influence bigger. It's just going to project straight into the screen and influence whatever is within the range, whereas if you hit connected, it's only going to affect the actual strokes that are selected. So, well, why did I do that? So that I can go like this, and I would say let's put it down a little bit, and then we'll just kind of select from the knee down and put an indicator like that, so we can go like this. Her dress, as far as for drawing purposes, really doesn't matter here. Okay, gonna grab here again from the knee down. I think we'll open it up a little bit, but then mainly, whoops, hit the R key to rotate. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is rotate this out like that, so you can see it's turning into a real mess, but the fact of the matter is it doesn't matter. As long as I can see what I'm doing, everything's fine. So what I'm going to actually do here for this frame is I'm just going to erase a bunch of stuff just to keep it simple. Okay, and then what I want to do is I'll turn onion skinning back on so I can see where I ended up. Okay, alright, so now gosh, if that's the position, I would say let's just do this. Let's put in the bottom of the sole of her foot. Let's just go ahead and redraw it, and we're going to obviously be a little more careful with the ink and paint to keep all the strokes cleaner and all the right colors and all that sort of thing, um, so that we don't get this jumbled mess when we start picking things up and moving them around. So yeah, this looks a little bit hokey, but let's see. I mean, it might actually look pretty good. So we're going to go from 0 to 4. Crazy, huh? Crazy. Okay, so the one thing I don't like at all is this. So let's make sure this is back in projected 2D. And what I'm going to do is just kind of in other words, by flopping this around this way, I'm essentially making the headdress vibrate more quickly. So let's turn onion skinning back off. Okay, so we want to be actually 0 to 3, total of 4 frames. Okay, so now when we animate this, we're going to want to get the headdress a little more under control so that it's not actually deforming this part of the headdress. We just want it to trail along behind. So most of that animation should really be just relegated to this little area right here. Okay, no problem. Let's go ahead and lock that layer, and we're basically in business for going ahead and getting this blocked in. Now let's think about this for a minute. Is her basically from the waist down is what's changing. So you got the tail of the headdress and you got the body from the waist down. So therefore, what I'm going to do, these layers are named kind of based on their function: paint, ink, temp. In this case, what we're going to do is we're going to break the character up into pieces to make our job easier. So I'm going to call this just upper body. So I'm going to rename it based on actually the items that are being drawn. Okay, so now for this type of a procedure, what I'd normally like to do is basically work from front to back. The headdress is obviously going to be over top of everything, although we really just need this area to be on a separate layer. So your layers are going to be the bottom half of the body, this little thing right here, and then all the rest. So we're really going to deal with 3 layers. So let's call this headdress, and let's call this lower body. Okay, cool. That's just keeping our work organized. We'll hit the old save button. And now, working back to front. Because my sketch is at the bottom of the stack, that means it's always going to be on top. So I'll be able to always see my drawing even if I put color underneath. Okay? Everybody with me so far? Okay. So the first thing I'm thinking is let's deal with her dress. Okay. By the way, this has kind of a geometric blocky sort of look to it, so I'm actually going to use Control D. Sorry, I'm in the wrong layer. We're dealing with upper body. Well, that's the quintessential problem, is inadvertently. So what I'm doing is, instead of actually drawing a sketch per se, what I'm doing is I'm actually almost modeling it, you might say, by simply drawing in dot, dot, dot. You know, I'm basically just sketching it this way. Okay, so now I had the wrong color selected, so let's just go ahead and hit Control M. Boom! Hey, I said boom. Upper body. Control M. Thank you. That's what I wanted. Okay, now we obviously need to fix this. The boy's costuming is predominantly blue. Let's make her costuming predominantly green. Okay? But we'll keep it on the light side. We want it to be pretty desaturated. So how about something like that? Boom. Okay, so that's going to be her dress color. So what the heck, as long as we're here, we'll call that dress. Alright. We've already got a flesh tone. Let's see. Again, working back to front. Now we could put in her hands and her face, right? So let's go ahead and go very sketchy here. This is, again, we're kind of doing Charlie Brown style on this. When she runs through this screen, she runs through the screen really fast, and there's no need to sweat the details. Okay, we need to be in projected 2D. We don't need to sweat the details of the, okay, sorry, completely the opposite. We need to be in connected mode. So now when I hit the G key, we can sort of line those up nicely. Cool beans. That's that. We're still on the flesh tone, so let's go ahead and put her face in there. Hitting the D key, and boom. That's all there was to that. In her case, we're going to use... let's just use the... Well, I don't want to use the shadow color. That's... Oh, border. Okay. That's what we want right there. Yeah, I'm just going to do the simplest. I want her to look very simple and cartoony. That's it. I don't want it to be any more complex than that. All right, so now we're going to put in her hair. And by some horrible travesty of evolution, her hair is the most obnoxious shade of blue. Well, that's because we're going to now go ahead and change the color to something a little more appropriate. Right, so let's just go, let's pick kind of a brownish color, I think. That'll work. That'll work. So we'll go here and we'll call that hair. Boom. Alright. Now we'll tuck that in there, and now we're going to deal with the headdress. Okay. So the headdress, boom, boom. And I'm just going to just block it in like this, and we'll deal with the kind of wraparound thing afterwards. So now if we make that the same color, we said that we wanted the headdress to be on the light side, right? So let's make it on the light side. Boom. Now we need to put in the sort of trim. So let's make a duplicate. Let's copy that color. I wish it didn't. I wish it would copy them to the immediately adjacent area, but it doesn't, so that's okay. Alright, so with that, we'll go boom. Okay, now I'm going to hit the E key, actually DE in Blender 2.79 to go into smooth mode, and I'm actually just going to kind of scribble here. Just kind of smooth things out a little bit. Smooth them out. Smooth them out. Okay, let me back up a little bit. And go key, G key I should say. Okay, now it is a little bit non-intuitive trying to work back to front, actually. It can be a little confusing if you're not careful. But let me bring that down a bit so I can just put that, wrap that around there. When you do it this way, you're thinking more like a 3D modeler than an artist, frankly. But you know what? It's all good. So I'm actually going to drag this. I'm going to drag this down here and just make a little adjustment here like that. Okay. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So remember this sort of, I don't know, tan color, I guess you'd say, is going to be in a second layer. Let's go ahead and put actually let's put the bulk of it in here like this. Let's just do that. And I really want that more like that. Okay, so that then all we have to do is put the tail in another layer, and I'm hitting the E key to go ahead and smooth that out. Okay, so now let's turn the sketch off to see what we have. And now this is where we're going to go ahead and do the touch-up stuff that I've kind of talked about in other videos a little bit. The outlines are going to be done automatically, so I want to go roughly to render size. Okay. Okay, and she's going to be shrunk down, by the way, a little bit. So I want to be a little careful on my detail lines, not to go too crazy. This is actually kind of important in this case. We'll delineate this stuff better with some shadows. That will be quite helpful. However, we can get the basics in here, like so. Oh, I didn't like that one. Okay. I'm gonna say that's probably about it. Okay, so now let's, by the way, saving my work. Let's go to the shadows. Boom, there's the shadows. So now let's put in some shadows here. I'm also gonna, by the way, go to front view so that I can flip the canvas. This, for whatever reason, would be a little easier from the opposite orientation. So let's go ahead and put some shadows in here. And that, again, will help to just kind of delineate what's actually going on with the cloth and the borders. And one nice thing about doing the shadows this way is you can also effectively have multiple layers of shadows if you want them. So sometimes it's helpful to hit the smooth key here. It's sort of, sometimes it forces the lines apart and sometimes it forces them together. It kind of depends. But that works pretty well. Okay, and flip it back. Cool beans. Alright, so now let's do something like that. It doesn't have to be super mega perfectly exact. Again, because I mean, she's literally going to be running across the screen. I mean, you know, it's going fast, baby. It's going fast. Okay. I think we're in pretty good shape. Let's go back to our camera view. And I would say go to ink, and I'm feeling like I want something like that. Okay. Now, before I deal with outlines, I mean, technically, to be fair, this probably doesn't need outlines at all. But just for completeness, I'm thinking we will do it. But I'm not going to deal with outlines until everything else is done. Okay, so that means headdress. Alright, so headdress is going to be simply this. We're going to go 1. Okay, here we go. Yeah, this is a bit of a problem, I must say. It's kind of important in the Blender grease pencil to when you're animating or adding new keyframes to actually solo your layer, which for me is the star key. So I hit the star key and you can see over here that the current layer gets soloed. That's important only because when you go to another frame and you draw something, it adds a keyframe, or if you change something, it adds a keyframe. Well, it adds a keyframe on every layer. I personally think that's kind of dumb. I've never found that particularly useful, but it's how Blender works. So in our case, what we need to do is grab each of these keys and get rid of them. So now we're back to clean, and let's solo the upper body. Well, actually, strike that. let's go to the headdress and solo that. And now that we got rid of those extra keyframes, the initial drawing that I did is sustained, as long as I want, as opposed to having it a moment ago it just disappeared on frame 2 because frame 2 already had a keyframe on it that was erroneous. Okay, hope that made sense. So headdress, I'm going to go, since it's soloed, any keys I add now are only going to be added to that layer, which is what we want. Alright, so I'm going to hit the D key to draw, and that obviously made that disappear. And I'm going to draw these individually. So we got onion skinning on. So now what we can do is, and the reason I'm drawing them is just to give it variety. Like so. Don't know if I needed to catch that. And seems like maybe we missed something there. So this is still running 0 to 3. So as far as I'm concerned, that looks fantastimodo, doesn't it? Now, one thing I could do is just a little bit of smoothing, just a little bit, like so. I need to change my hotkeys here so that for me this is not intuitive. The down arrow goes back and the up arrow goes forward in time, which to me feels backwards. When I go down, I want to go down forward in time, or up, back up to the top. I don't know if that makes sense for other people, but for me that's what seems to be the most intuitive. Alright, I hit Alt A and that looks excellent. Okay, so now we got to deal with her lower body. So let's turn the sketch back on so we can kind of see what we're doing. And then let's go ahead and hit the star key, actually 3 times. 1 to deselect the previously soloed layer, which gets us back. It should take 2, but it takes 3. So if I click to another layer and I hit star, okay, I hit star, everything gets locked. Star again, everything gets unlocked. Star again, the current layer that I grabbed is now locked. So only when switching layers, no big deal. Okay, so here what we're going to do is let's just toggle through our, okay, so let's just do this, let's do it back to front. Okay, so what we're going to do is draw her leg, then her foot, then her toes. Okay, here, leg, little patch, whoops, little patch, foot, toes. Okay, again, working back to front. I would say in her case, we can just use the black ink fill. I think what I'm actually going to do when it's all said and done is I'm going to take the black ink fill color and just turn it down a little bit, turn down the opacity a little bit so that it's just not quite as harsh. So that gives us her sandal straps. Sandal soles, straps. Okay, and now we want to grab the dress color and go draw this over top like that. Pretty simple, huh? Pretty simple. Okay, and then I'm going to take this black ink fill color, and again, I'm just cheating here by using that. I'll add the details later. Okay? Now, actually strike that. I'm going to go ahead and put in a few details because I'm going to be dragging some of these pieces around. So let's put in a toenail or 2. Yep, let's just do that. Put in a toenail, a little bit of a crease there. Well, that was too much of a crease. Okay, that's fine. I won't deal with shadows. We'll deal with shadows later. And any, like, gosh, wrinkling on the dress, I guess we could put that in. That wouldn't hurt because the dress is going to have to be redrawn every time anyway. So there we go. That takes care of that. Okay, cool. So now let's go to the next frame, and our strategy is going to be as follows. We want to leverage as much as we can. So therefore, what I want to do is grab this and hit the L key to select linked. Okay, now let me check something here. Okay, yeah. So now I need to grab that little piece right there, by the way, as well. Okay, so now what we're trying to do is move this forward. So I'm going to say the anchor point probably belongs about there. And there we go. Okay, except we missed that one. So that's no big deal. Let's just leave our anchor point in the same place and go like that, and that problem is solved. Okay, so now unselect by hitting the A key, and then we're just going to grab this stuff. When we hit the L key, select linked, and we're basically anchoring on the knee type area. And there we go. So now the question becomes, well, what are we going to do with the dress? And I'm going to say, let's hit the G key. Let's make sure we, actually, let's line this up better first. Okay, that's fine. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is make sure I grab a little bit of the green as well. So that I can then go like so. I think probably something like that would be okay. Okay, that's it for key number 2. Key number 3. It's almost the same as, let me get rid of that stroke. Hit the X key, get rid of the, oops, sorry, that's not what I meant to do. I want to be able to see this, but make sure it's locked. Okay, so yeah, let's just go like this, and we'll just massage it. Now, actually, let's do it the other way just to demonstrate. You could use the grab tool instead, and just usually if you find, especially with Blender 2.8, if you find you know, kind of demos out there of people showing how you do things in Blender 2.8, normally they're going to be, I'm actually going to get rid of that stroke after all. They're usually going to be using the sculpt tool more than proportional editing. I happen to favor proportional editing just because I've used it forever, but it's really 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, the truth be known. Okay, let me see. Yeah, so the key to this part is that, let's hit select linked. Ooh, I said select linked. And I'm just going to move this out here. It's common strategy. Just get it out of the way. Okay, this stroke, we'll just get rid of it. We'll redraw that. No big deal. X key to get rid of the strokes. Let's grab this. Select linked, and now what we're going to do is we're going to rotate this around here, and with one little caveat actually. Let's hit the A key. I want to bend this leg a little bit more, so I'm going to hit select linked, yeah, and I'm just going to hit rotate so that that's kind of sort of more like that. I'm hitting the control key to grab everything, drag that over there, good to go. Okay, so now here, obviously because the key to making this work is to flip around the foot, which we're going to actually show the sole of her foot. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Sorry guys. Let me hit undo. I'm hitting the Z key. It looks like I've just got, it's going to be more of a pain to undo to that than to just hit control a couple times, control plus I should say, and delete the points. It's fine. Okay, so I think nothing else is selected. Okay. So yeah, let's just get rid of big piece of it. Boom. Boom. Hit the go key. And now let me check. Yep, it's still behind, so that's good. And here, I would say we can reuse this one, but we can't reuse the other one. So let's just hit the old rotate, go. We'll patch the leg a little bit here in a minute, but frankly, yeah. Yep, what we'll do is let's grab this, drag it up like that, kind of make like so. I'd say that's probably okay. This one, select linked, and delete them all. So we got to redo that leg. Alright, so let's hit the D key and draw the leg. And then here what I need to do is just grab that stroke and then hit page down a couple times until it's behind. Okay, now here, toe, toe, and I believe we were just cheating with the sandal and just using our black, sorry, not our shadow color. I keep doing that. Okay, and then we'll just add some nonsense color here just to sort of sell it. Alright, and then obviously the dress is boogered up at this point, but that's quite easy to fix. Like so. Okay, now what we're going to do is shadow and detail. Okay, so let's just go back to the first. Turn the sketch off. Okay, and so we're definitely going to have to fix that. Well, actually, maybe not. Okay, I kind of got away with murder there. And by the way, also, I would say, let's do a select linked here. Oh, come on. Select linked. And let's just do a little bit of a scaling up. It appears to me like that foot should probably be slightly bigger in that pose. Okay? You know, it works for me, guys. Okay, so now we'll grab our ink. And we kind of already did the that frame. So here, okay, this is going to be kind of important. I'm going to hit Control Star to solo the ink so I don't inadvertently erase anything else. So now I can actually hit erase and just erase these lines, which is quite useful. Okay, so now boom, 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 boom. Actually, I don't like that one. Okay, go back here. And we'll kind of go like that. Give a little bit of an indication of her where her hips are. Okay, that's wrong. Sorry about that. This should be more like that. Again, a little bit of a dyslexia moment. Okay. Yeah, this is wrong. This leg is in front. Again, sorry for the dyslexia moment. I think that'll work. And we'll sort of figure out, we'll tighten it up with shadows. So I didn't do the most amazing job ever of selling the orientation of the legs in terms of which one's in front. And that seems to be harming it. Perhaps that is as well. Okay, let's go to our shadows. So I'm going to hit Control Star to unsolo that color. And now, let's go ahead and what we'll do, oops, sorry. We want to use the shadow. Okay, so the fact that this layer overlaps, we're just going to use that to our advantage and sort of fake the idea that there's a highlight there. Like so. Whoops, didn't really mean to do that. The color sort of overlapped on top of itself. There's that. Maybe that would be good. Definitely want something there. Definitely want something there. Probably a little something there. Nah, I don't think I'm going to put a shadow underneath like that. I don't think it's really necessary. So let's go back. Let's actually go back to the top here. Okay, so again, this leg's in front. And let's just follow this leg around. That's kind of how I have to do it because I'm so dyslexic. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, that'll work. I'm also, frankly, fighting the fact that the hotkeys for going forward and backward are literally completely the opposite of what makes any intuitive sense to me. So I'm constantly trying to go forward a frame and accidentally going back a frame, which is definitely not helping matters too much. But hopefully in this particular case it's actually not going to matter too much, because this again is kind of all going by pretty fast. It just needs to look cool. See, alright, just did it again. Boom, 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 boom. I think that'll work. Okay, let's see what we have. Boom. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is just put an empty in the scene. I'm hitting the tab key to go into object mode so I can shrink this empty down. Just kind of get it down here. And then what I'm going to do is take unsolo the layers. Sorry, I really need to be in edit strokes mode, or the solo layers hotkeys don't work. Okay, so now her upper body is going to be parented. I better double check this. Okay, let's go down here to item, and let's call this EMP running girl. That way it'll be easy to identify over here. So there's EMP running girl, EMP running girl, EMP running girl. Okay, so whoops, now in object mode, what we can do is just scale this down so it's kind of in the same zone as the boy. Sorry about that. So I think I'm going to scale her down just a little more. And let's see what happens if we scale her on the Z. I actually think I like that. Okay, so now the question of looping comes up again with the grease pencil. I don't know if I should waste time here on it because I don't know that I've ever done it before. So let's take a really quick look and see. So here's the question we're getting at here. if I want her to be running, so he's going to run across the screen, and I haven't actually nailed down the timing of when he's going to start running because there's going to be a camera move pushing into the scene. So the question is, how do we get her to loop forever like that? And so the answer is I'm not actually sure if you can do it the same way you can with other animation keys. Okie dokie, so let's go into the graph editor and see what we have with the grease pencil. I suppose we would want to grab G pencil up here, and it looks to me, that's interesting. You can grab, well, you can grab it. So like here I can grab the camera and it's going to show me keys for it. There's the other empties that are in the scene. There's EMP running girl, and it's interesting that this is kind of a deficiency that I would assume was probably addressed in Blender 2.8 and forward, but normally what you would expect to see is if you're going to see the individual grease pencil layers as you see them here, then you would expect the grease pencil object to be under EMP running girl, or at least the individual layers would be, since they are parented to the empty. But as far as I can see, the answer to my question is simply no. No, you can't do it. So if you want to do a looping situation in the Blender grease pencil, it appears to me that you pretty much need to just copy and paste. So that's fine. I mean, this isn't that big of a loop anyway, so let's make sure everything's cool. So then what I'm going to do is hit the B key to box select. I'm going to box select not the sketch. I'm going to select these layers. And actually, to be fair, I don't really even need to repeat this, the upper body. That just repeats all the time anyway. So let's just take these two right here, these two layers that have the keys, and we'll hit Shift D, Shift D, Shift D, and now I'm actually going to cheat by reselecting them and hit Shift D like that. And let's just make it really, really, really stupidly long. Okay, that should be plenty. We're operating at 8 frames a second, so for 50 frames, you know, 24 frames would be 3 seconds. So we're into about 5 seconds of nonstop running. So I think we're in good shape. As I recall, the overall animation was about 60 frames previously. So let's just see what happens here. Okay. Alright, so now, let me check something. Okay, the boy never looks forward. So I would say what we want to do here, and by the way, let me just measure, make sure their feet are lined up properly. Yeah, okay, so the girl, whoops, come on. So her feet need to land like that. And then let's just say hit the G key for go on the x-axis, so GX. And we'll put that, actually, let's do it this way. Let's put this here. Okay, I know what to do. This is even smarter. Okay, I want to double check one thing. Which one here is the parent? Empty. Empty. Where's this one? Yeah, so this is the parent. Okay, so let's take this and go Control P and parent it to that. And then let's grab her. We'll G on the X, go on the X, and drag it back here. So now what just happened is she's going to inherit all his animation. So she's going to be automatically running behind him. Now there is a problem, as you can see. So let's switch to Dope Sheet here. And let's look at this boy's second key, which would appear to be right here. And this empty needs to be a little further forward. And maybe we want to move this a couple frames downstream. I said forward. What I really mean is Okay, something's wrong. Oh, I didn't set the key. I gotta set the key manually. I don't have automatic keyframing turned on, so let's go. Insert a location key. Okay, so now because they're on the same frame, that means everything's gonna happen a little bit too fast probably. So let's just stretch that out a bit and see what we have. Gosh, guys, I mean, I'm thinking I'll take it, right? So what's probably going to happen in this shot, if we go and turn the background image back on, what's supposed to happen is you're going to see this background of the villagers and the camera's pushing in, and as the camera pushes in, the kids run across the screen. So essentially, let me just think about this for a minute. We enter in. I'm thinking 2 seconds. So at 8 frames a second, that's going to be about on frame 16. So I think what we should do is take all of this and push it forward to about frame 16 or 18, something like that. Okay. Now, I would think that my grease pencil, therefore, should probably do the same. Where is 14? Okay. So now we have, you know, we kind of enter the scene, we're pushing in, and then boom, the kids run across. Okay. Works for me. One thing I'm wondering though, the way she's running looks about right, but it does seem like her footfalls are, well, I don't know. It's kind of fun actually, because he's kind of running twice as fast. It's almost like his feet are moving twice as fast, and she's bounding, boink, boink. Okay, so let's have a little bit of fun with that. We might as well. And the way we'll do it is like this. Let's go to the dope sheet. Let's go to her empty. Okay, and what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna do it over. We're gonna do it on frame 0 just so it's easy to see. Okay, so I'm gonna save my work so that if I decide I don't like this, I don't have to go back and fiddle with it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit insert location. Okay. And once she's running, so it's every one, it's really every 4th frame. Let's just, we'll just see if I get lucky here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the z-axis like that and insert a location key. So now what I'm going to do is just, I want to repeat this. So now this is where we're going to go to the function editor or the graph editor. Let's go to the graph editor, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at her location, and basically we want to her location on the x-axis is utterly irrelevant, so let's get rid of it completely. Her location on the y-axis, likewise, that's forward and backward. Delete, delete. All that leaves is the z location. And the z location, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the channel and make it cyclic. See that? Now she's going to be going up, down, up, down, up, down. So I probably should zoom in here so you can like see what's actually going on. All right. Did it work? The question is she bounding at the right time? If she's not, it's going to be easy to fix with the graph. Actually, let's make it more extreme just to, it'd be easier to see if we got it right. I got it right. I can't believe it. That was dumb luck, folks. Dumb luck. Okay. I mean, as likely as not, it would have turned out she goes higher when her feet are on the ground, which absolutely makes no sense, obviously. So, Alright, let's turn the background images off. And I'd say for this video, it's been an hour, so let's go ahead and call it a day on this particular shot. This is one of the more complicated shots in the show, clearly. Alright, so let's just kind of zip this down. But if you're looking for practical tips on using Blender in a real-world situation to solve animation problems relatively efficiently, I mean, think about it. As far as I'm concerned, we've got essentially production-ready animation here. Done, drawn, animated, even with a little fancy schmancy stuff with the bounding up and down, all in the space of an hour, so not too bad. The only thing that I did neglect to do is her outlines, okay? If I want to go ahead and do her outlines, I can show you how that would have to happen. It would be done this way. I would grab this layer. This is going to be a little tricky, and I have to think about it as I do it, okay? So bear with me. I'm going to go ahead and save my work, though, because I like what I did. So here's the steps. I'm going to duplicate the upper layer, upper body layer, and move that to the top. I'm going to duplicate the headdress, move that to the top. The order of the stacking here doesn't matter at all. I'm going to duplicate this layer, move it up to the top. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these three layers and lock them and turn them off. All right, and then I'm going to take this. All these layers are now selectable. So I should be, don't want to be in object mode, edit strokes. If I select everything and go up here to my colors, and I want to go to my black ink fill color and hit Control M. So for those layers, everything's black. Okay? And now, all I need to do is on each of these layers, let's make the thickness change. I guess we'll start with the headdress because that'll be the easiest one to see. Let's make the thickness change. Yeah, probably about like that. So let's say 4 pixels. Okay, so fine. This is going to be 4 pixels. This is going to be 4 pixels. Cool beans. So now she has outlines. And we can take each of these layers and probably, actually, probably would be appropriate to turn down their opacity a bit. So let's turn the opacity down to about halfway. Because for ink outlines, you generally want them to be slightly lighter than black, you know. So there's that. Okay, so now let me unlock these layers. One thing I would like to do, I don't want to do it. Okay, so this is kind of one of the inherent problems with the grease pencil, is that if I now want to fix this line, well, actually it's not a big deal. I can just put it on another layer. So let's add a layer. This is going to be, I'll just call this patch. And before I do anything, let's just parent this to the empty running girl. Okay, so now what I can do is let's just go back to the, we'll go into front view and just go back to frame 1 just to keep things clean and simple. And then what I'm going to do is take my ink and just add a line. Okay, now because it's on its own layer, it's just repeating all the time. Okay, one thing that is a little confusing to me though, however, is why are we not seeing an outline around the headdress? Let's see here. Unfortunately, the only way to figure it out is going to be to mute all these. Ah, okay. There's a glitch there. This is supposed to be black ink fill. And we'll see if that solved things. Yeah. I would say it's actually probably a little more opaque would be good. Okay. All right. And then, yeah, it looks like the the problem that I just had, it looks like the only layer that properly got turned black was the upper body. So let's just kill everything one at a time. Yeah, see, there you go. There's your problem. So let's grab this. And oh, I know what the problem is. Yes. Okay, stop everything. Hold the presses, folks. I did that wrong. The first time I figured out how to do this, this was how I did it. It's actually the wrong way to do it. Moving all these, duplicate the strokes, put it in a different layer, that's fine. But moving it all to your shadow color is actually a really bad idea, because it won't get changed on subsequent keyframes. You'd have to do it on every keyframe. What you want to do, so again, my bad, this was a mistake on my part, is you want to do a tint. Tint, tint, tint. All right. And that makes a little more sense. Okay, so now we'll just dial it in. So yeah, don't move them to your outline color. Just tint them whatever color you want them to be. Okay, I can see there's a little bit of a glitch right there, but you're not gonna see it. I mean, come on. She's running, for crying out loud. So let's turn the sketch layer off. In fact, let's delete it. There's no need for it to be in there. And with that, we can actually do a quick test render to kind of see what we're going to get. And there it is. If I hit F11, there the kids are running across the screen. Everything's looking pretty good. That's it. We're done. So now all I got to do, sorry to be like belching in your ears, guys. Now all I need to do is draw the background situation, put in the camera move. So the background with the villagers, I would say, we'll probably go ahead and do in Krita. We'll draw them in Krita so that we can then just separate this guy out onto a plane, just like I did with the boy. I'm going to put him on a plane and probably this guy on a plane, so that this guy that's holding the textiles, we'll see him just kind of raise his hands up as he's looking at this rug or whatever he's looking at, and this guy is just going to have his hands move a little bit, but they'll be on separate layers. Then the background of the village will be on a third layer, so you basically have 3 layers and then the camera will move into it and the kids will run across and then the shot will be done. So probably take another hour to do the whole rest of the shot, I would say. So it's looking good. And that's it, you guys. As you know, there will be more later.